Emailed and asked why no dribble games aren't considered a fake fundamental. And while I understood part of his point in terms of the way that they change behaviors, and in a game, typically you are able to use the dribble, I do think there's a place for no dribble games for practicing passing. And I do think that a no dribble game is preferable to practice passing as opposed to a stationary passing drill or something like a three-man weave, something that doesn't involve a defense to work on passing. So I do think that there is room, but I also agree that playing no dribble games too often can change behaviors and develop habits that may or may not be desirable, when a player has a dribble. So the main reasons that I use a no dribble game is I like to play 3-on-3 no dribble for conditioning. I play 3-on-3 full court no dribble for conditioning. To me, it's one of the better games. If players play hard and they pick up full court, I think it's one of the better games as a conditioning game. And then I also play it for passing and catching, being able to create a passing lane without the dribble, because there are times where you pick up your dribble or you're trapped or something, and you have to be able to use a pivot foot, protect the ball, and create a passing lane without the use of a dribble. And not just as the passer, but also the receiver has to be able to get open into an area where where the player with the ball can make the pass. And so those are the two main reasons why I use it: to practice passing under pressure when you don't have a dribble, especially. But just in general, being able to create passing lanes, and then also for conditioning purposes. But I do think, and agree with the coach who made the comment, that when no dribble games are played too often, there is the potential for players now to change and not use the dribble, or get used to holding the ball too long, or holding the ball, protecting it, turning their back on defensive players so they can protect the ball because they know they have to hold it longer while a teammate gets open because they can't use the dribble to create a passing lane, and some of these other negative potential outcomes from a game. So it's not something that I use on a daily basis, maybe even a weekly basis, but it's something that I like to use every once in a while, early in the season, to work on passing, to work on moving, to work on protecting the ball, to work on pivoting especially. Those are the main reasons why I like to use it. I do think that some coaches will use it too often because they want to promote movement without the ball, in a half-court set, and more passing as opposed to dribbling in a half-court set. And I do think there can be benefits to that, using it in the half-court without the dribble, forcing players to get open. You could use it to emphasize screening and screening away from the ball. If you take away the dribble, so players really have to work to get open, so they're open on the catch for a shot instead of being able to rely on the dribble to create a shot. So I do think there's reasons why you can use it in the half court as well. But I do, again, think that there can be some negative consequences of using it too much or too often, where players stop looking to attack, start holding the ball, maybe they change their posture when they catch the ball, things like that, whenever you remove the actual game, or move further and further away from the actual game. So whenever you take a 5-on-5 game and then you reduce it to 3-on-3, or you play 5-on-5 but you take away the dribble, or you make it a half-court game, or whatever it is that you've done to take away part of the game, and that could be going to a full-on block practice drill where you're taking shooting out of the game and you're only going to practice shooting, in whatever shooting drill you want to use. There's always something that you're losing by not playing the actual full game. And so the goal is that what you're gaining by not playing the full game, in terms of repetitions, or especially more repetitions for a specific skill, and in this case emphasizing passing, de-emphasizing dribbling. So what you're gaining hopefully is more than what you're losing or what you're taking away by removing the actual game. And so if you're actually creating more problems, or creating worse outcomes, or the changes become negative, then that's something you don't want to do anymore. because you're not, even though you might be getting more passing repetitions, if they're passing repetitions that lead to players in games catching the ball and turning their back on defensive players, or some other negative behavior, well, now you've created a negative outcome for a drill, and so that drill is no longer valuable. So you need to find a different way to create a drill or a game where you can emphasize passing and get those passing repetitions in somewhat game-like situations. And that's something that, with different teams, different players, different coaches, you have to manage whether or not you're getting what you want out of the drill and not creating too many negative outcomes from the drill. And as long as the positives greatly outweigh the negatives, then it's probably something that's worthwhile to do. If the positives barely outweigh the negatives, then maybe it's something you do every once in a while to emphasize that one particular thing. If the negatives outweigh the positive, then it's probably not something that you want to spend time on during practice, and that's when it starts to move towards the area of being a fake fundamental. But again, I like it, if for no other reason, I like it as a conditioning drill at the beginning of the season. And then I do think it has value especially for working on pivoting and passing and creating that passing lane. But I can see where there are some negative behaviors that could come out of the game, and potentially with older players, or even younger players, depending, those negative behaviors might outweigh the positives, and it might be something that you save for a different team or only use very rarely.